Test, test, test. Are we live? Are we live? I think we're live. It's not coffee crates, leadership, and pancakes. It is chatting with chaps tonight, and we have our very own chaplain that started it all off. Actually, got the name, stole it from him. And
it was my idea too.
Yeah, it's such an awesome time when you can bring back really good guests and just people that are family. But before we get into the show, pay some bills. Not really paying any bills, but a shout out to the fiercely favorite bling bosses that I'll be having on later. Being led by the Jewel Junkie, where they add style to your smile $5 at a time. Shout out to the team. Looking forward to you guys coming on. And shout out to the Augusta Dream Center, man, the nonprofit organization that I work with. They having the Run for Hope coming up in September. Man, if you guys get a chance, you're in the area, go out, volunteer, help out. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, skip, man. Walk that thing out. Whatever it is, go out and help. Or just get out there, meet some new people. You know what I mean? So on that, we are transitioning. Hello, chap. How are you?
Good evening, friend. How are you?
I'm well, man. I'm very well. Look, I don't know if I had facial hair the last time we did the show.
Yes, you did, but you had not yet retired.
Oh, well, technically, I still have, what's today? I still have 16 days.
16 days. All right, but you must be on terminal leave, I assume.
I'm on terminal leave, and it is wonderful.
Yeah, I'm just guessing. Key word is chilling.
Yes, but it's funny because it's like I'm not, I haven't employed myself, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to not do that prematurely, just because it's like 24 years of punching the clock. I don't know if I want to punch a clock right now. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I don't know.
In my experience, because I've been on retirement ceremonies, quite a bit, people have that one thing, maybe two or three things that they want to do the day after they retire. So, say if your retirement date, I assume, is right around August 2nd or 3rd.
My first day of retirement is August 1st.
It will be a truly August month for you, my friend, which is awesome.
Yes.
But I've had retirees tell me I want to grow a beard and a big old gut.
Look, I'm working on both. I'm working on it.
Your beard looks very distinguished and somehow very becoming. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. My mom and my wife hates it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because everybody think that I'm either her brother or her husband when we're out at the out volunteering. You see your mom, you go speak, and they be like, "Oh, your husband's so." She's like, "Cut that thing off her diet or something." I'm like, "No, Mom, sorry, I can't do it." What's up? We got Steve Coe in the building. What's up? Oh, he said it's a little late, OG. Yeah, man, it's late. It's not late everywhere. On West Coast time, it's 7:00. Right, chap?
Yes, that is natural light reflecting my countenance, actually.
See, that's the beauty of when you've been in the military. You know people all over the world. So, you ready to jump into it, chap?
I am ready.
Okay, so if you guys don't know, Chap, can you give us just a brief synopsis of introduce who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then we're going to jump into the importance of the chaplaincy.
Absolutely. So I am Chaplain Brian Hamer. I currently serve Destroyer Squadron 2-3 at Naval Base San Diego, and a squadron of destroyers in this particular case happens to be 5 destroyers, and we hover between 4 and even 7 destroyers at any given time. So basically I have, you remember the old game Battleship? I basically play Battleship because I'm constantly trying to figure out where my destroyers are and who needs what. I have been in chaplaincy since 2011. and my billets have all been East Coast and West Coast. And I first met our illustrious host in self-defense classes in a Desert Central Naval Air Station, Lemoore.
Yes.
113 degrees after dinner in the shade some nights. And self-defense classes, maybe 2016, I think we first met?
Yeah, yes, sir. It's around there between 2014 and 2018 when we left. Yep.
Okay. And I am married to Jennifer, 25 years as of July 26th.
Woo, congratulations.
Congratulations to me and condolences to her, I assure you.
I'm sure she would say the same, but flip-flop it. You guys are awesome.
I appreciate that. And as you mentioned, we have two girls, Caitlin and Emma, going into 7th grade and 12th grade, one of whom should be learning to drive fairly soon, and that is a prayer request.
Yes, absolutely. Sending them up. 12th grade? It seemed like she just went into high school. Oh, my God.
I agree.
Dang. So, okay, look. So, before we get into the show, I think your youngest daughter had a show that she did, right?
Yeah.
How was it?
Yeah, it was wonderful. She was in Newsies at our local community theater called Star Theater here in Oceanside, California.
Okay.
And she played the role of JoJo. And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And she has her eyes on the musical Annie later this fall. But she has really taken the musical theater. Our theory has been with the girls, try everything good. Try a little bit. It was baseball, football, theater, clarinet, if you're into that sort of thing. It looks like a pick to me, so I'm not a clarinet guy. And find that one thing that you're passionate about. So our older daughter has been doing show choir all 3 years here at high school.
Okay.
And one in theater now. And so we are quite the artistic people, it would appear.
Yeah.
But they also do well with self-defense and some athletics. So they're coming right along. Very proud of them.
That's so awesome, man. Congratulations to you guys, man. That's, I had to hit you up offline. I might be in your AO later on in the year. I make sure I stop in and see you guys.
You will stop in and see us.
Absolutely.
Yes. Family coming with you?
No, it's just me. It's a fellas trip.
Mm-hmm. All right, put us on your radar. Oceanside, California.
Absolutely. Yes, sir, I will. I'll let you know when I know exactly what my dates are.
Please.
All right, so let's get into it. We're going to hitchhike our way through the galaxy with your guide, the galaxy of chaplains.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to go with the first point, opening up with the Old Testament. What you got for us, Chap?
All right, so some folks may or may not realize just how old the custom is that when people go into battle, they need spiritual care. We spend a lot of time, I know you're Army, I'm Navy, on sailor wholeness, soldier wholeness and wellness, so let's just call it service member wholeness and wellness. And this goes all the way back, believe it or not, to the days of Moses in Deuteronomy chapter 20, where we read in the laws concerning warfare. Now here the precedent for military chaplaincy here. From Deuteronomy chapter 20, when you go out to war against your enemies and see horses and chariots and an army larger than your own, you shall not be afraid of them. For the Lord your God is with you, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And when you draw near to the battle, the priest shall come forward and speak to the people and shall say to them, Hear, O Israel, today you are drawing near for battle against your enemies. Let not your heart faint. Do not fear or panic or be in dread of them. For the Lord your God is he who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to give you the victory. So the priest offers these words of encouragement to the Hebrew army. He is, of course, a non-combatant. He is a priest. He's not quite a military chaplain. It simply says a priest, so drawn from the Levitical order at the time. But notice, he is with them at the cusp of battle. And then I see him as probably withdrawing at that point, and the soldiers go forward. And with the Hebrew army, God's army, the last truly holy wars, when their trust is in God, they simply cannot fail.
That's right. Look, and if you were in some of those armies, you didn't always go into battle with weapons. Sometimes you went in with a recorder, The little thing they gave us in elementary and middle school to learn how to play the instrument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And some jars or something that they was banging on walking around with old Gideon. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
I
So
don't want
that art of warfare, that whole Sun Tzu thing. If you're near, appear to be far. If you're far, appear to be near. If you're weak, appear to be strong. If you're strong, appear to be weak. And constantly deceiving the enemy. That is absolutely ancient, even before Jesus.
That's right. That's hey, before they wrote it down, he was already instrumental in utilizing those tactics, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what about the New Testament? What does the New Testament tell us about the chaplaincy?
Well, New Testament, I got two passages here.
Okay.
One from Romans chapter 13. Not everybody's favorite chapter, because it's also where we're told to pay our taxes, but it's in there.
No, don't give Caesar what is his.
Yeah, exactly. So in Romans 13, now keep in mind, even as I'm sitting here, I don't know if you can see it, I'm wearing a cross and I'm wearing my rank insignia, and they are approximately a half inch apart. Mm-hmm. So some people sometimes cite this phrase, a wall of separation between church and state.
Yeah.
That is actually in our founding documents. That's in a letter from Thomas Jefferson. So somebody did say that, and I'm going to suggest that metaphor was horrible, and that this is why. You can't have religious insignia being paid by the Navy and in the Navy. Now, there's no wall of separation. There's a distinction between church and state, and that's always going to be an issue and a tension. St. Paul addresses that in Romans 13 when he says, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer." So, if somebody were to ask, can a Christian be a soldier? Specifically keeping in mind that soldiers kill. And I'm going to say that the answer is yes, as long as we are fighting a just war. That is, we're going to defend the helpless, and we are going forth for a good cause on behalf of our own nation.
Right.
Yeah. And very different, we must say, than the Old Testament context. Because remember, in the Old Testament, you did not have church and state. You simply had God's kingdom. It was the one and only theocracy, that which is ruled by God. So when he says, be a soldier and go kill Philistines and Perizzites and Hittites and other bad guys, you just do it.
You just do
and
it.
You just kill.
Everything,
right?
Cattle, everything, slaughter it.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to vanquish God's enemies. Also, a little shorter and a little clearer, 2 Timothy 2, 3, and 4. St. Paul says, so this is old Pastor Emeritus Paul, writing to young, newly ordained young Pastor Timothy. St. Paul says, share in suffering as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. Now, you would not use the metaphor for soldier for young Pastor Timothy were it not possible to be a soldier and for that to be a God-pleasing vocation. Now think back to Jesus' Passion. A lot of soldiers doing a lot of bad things in Jesus' day. That doesn't mean you can't be a soldier. In fact, if you're going to be a good and faithful soldier, you will really stand out among the others just by being a good and faithful soldier. Right. And St. Paul continues, no soldier gets entangled in civilian pursuits, since his aim is to please the one who enlisted him. And it's going to be an interesting transition for you, Marty, and I'm sure you're going to handle it very well, as you're about to leave behind the Uniform Code of Military Justice. What will you do?
Woo!
Yeah.
I have the Uniform Code of Jewel Junkie. I'm sure she'll enforce some standards that I got to maintain with, maybe have some grooming standards in there somewhere.
the Uniform Code of Marital Justice.
Yeah.
If it exists. Now, in all these things, just to bring these Old and New Testament texts together, when the military does something right, indeed when the government does something right. So for instance, in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, you can be punished for having sex with someone who is not your spouse.
Right.
Different that is with inside our fence line, sitting here at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton. And then it is outside the fence line where, as long as there is consent, absolutely, and more or less anything goes as long as there is consent.
Right.
But in that phrase, in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, they are borrowing intellectual capital from Christianity. But it's only God who has made us male and female and ordained that marriage will be the lifelong union of one man and one woman. And that's what I love about what I do, is that there's no contradiction between this cross and this rank. We are God's servants for good.
Right. That's good. All right. So there's a couple of historical cases. One of them is Saint Martin of Tours.
This is my personal favorite. As you look at the various rates and titles, I was just playing catch when I came in. I was playing catch with a commo. That's a communications officer. Okay. In the Marines. And we have all sorts of abbreviations that always seem to be in flux. But usually it's pretty clear what that person is. Commanding officer, executive officer, command master, chief. What's a chaplain? Well, believe it or not, the word goes all the way back to the 4th century when a Roman soldier named St. Martin of Tours, or eventually named St. Martin of Tours, converted to Christian worship. And when he was on the watch in modern day France, he met a beggar. And Soldier Martin took his cloak, or so the story goes, and he cut it in half with his sword, and he gave half to this beggar to keep him warm. And then a few nights later, or sometime later, he had a dream in which he peeked into the gates of heaven, and he saw Jesus wearing that half of the cloak that he had given to the beggar. Now, take or leave how much of that is fact and fiction. That is a really, really good story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, the half of the cloak that he kept for himself, having converted to Christianity, eventually became a holy relic. The men who were charged to guard the holy relic were known as the chaplains.
Okay.
And there it is. That's where we get the word chaplain. And a little bit different than what they would do, because guarding something would essentially be like the Knights Templar, right? But you're guarding something religious, so it has a clear religious overtone. And through the years, it just kind of stuck that if you're in an institutional setting, hospital, military, federal prison system, you are the chaplain, and you are to care for the spiritual needs of the folks under your charge. Okay. And by the way, it's spelled Chaplain.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, most people need to buy a vowel.
I've done it, chap.
Oh, have you? Okay.
I have. I was like, that don't look right, but send it. I pushed the send it on there for old Steve Cole, who was in here in the room with us. I think I lost you for a second there.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I'm back.
Okay, I see you. Yes. Yeah, because his old supervisor, Steve Cole, old supervisor, used to always say, send it.
Okay. Nice. I like it.
So that's where I put that in there. All right. So why military chaplains?
The temptation, of course, is to say, well, and I've actually read this in various journals through the years, we could save a ton of money in the military and invest it in weapons if we just got rid of the chaplain corps, and I suppose some of medical, and who knows, maybe even some of the JAG Corps, the Judge Advocate General. And the reason, though, that we do need military chaplains on a very basic level is just security. You can't just stick a civilian on a ship or on a Marine Air Ground Task Force and say, here, you just go with them, because that's when they're going to need you the most, right?
That's right.
But yeah, when we're on shore or we're in garrison, you call it about garrison in Army language, right?
Right.
Okay, so Army and Marines, you would say in garrison, and the Navy, we would say on shore. You're largely building relationships with them, and then you're going to take that relationship of trust into a forward deployed, often combatant situation. Mm-hmm. So somebody who shows up, oh, it's so bad, this does happen. If somebody checks into a command on Monday and then has to saddle up and go out and deployment, say on Friday, that's tough because then you haven't had a chance to build that relationship. So basic security issue that you have been vetted and that you are an actual member of the uniformed military services. And that's what allows you to take it, like that passage in Deuteronomy 20, the priest doesn't pray at the temple and say, see you later. He goes with the army. He's on the front lines right to the cusp of going into battle. So security. The second thing closely related that we do need actual military chaplains is just their understanding of the military culture and language. Think in terms of Daniel in the Old Testament during Babylonian captivity. He learned, we read, the language and literature of the Babylonians, not to become a Babylonian, but he would be faithful even in the courts and have a tremendous influence in Babylon. And that's largely what we do. We speak the language of abbreviations. And again, this will be an interesting transition for you. Is that we speak I learned an abbreviation a day.
I'm trying to forget all the abbreviations, chap.
Well, I was going to say I learn one a day, but I forget at least two a day.
But they add them. They use the same one over. They're reusing them now. It's like, yo, what is this? I thought this was something else, and now it's this. So yeah, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Imagine then saying to the soldier or to a sailor, well, we don't have chaplains, but there's a Roman Catholic church down the street. You can go talk to the priest. They go talk to the priest, and the priest might actually hear the following sentence. Oh, Father Smith, I was involved in an ARI, and I'm just an E4, and I'm going to XOI and DRB right before my EAS. OMG!
He's going to say, hit him with the holy oil.
Exactly. You need Google Translate, just to get through that sentence.
Yeah.
But yeah, how meaningful it is to have somebody who actually can speak the language and literature of the Babylonians. So we have had military chaplains in the United States since 1775.
Wow, that's the beginning.
That's the very, very beginning. And we are in the Navy. I can't speak to the Army and Air Force chaplains, but I know in the Navy we're short-handed because our goal is that every ship that deploys is going to have its own chaplain. Right now we have to borrow chaplains to make that happen. And so it is a real challenge. But we've had military chaplains, and we're coming up on our 250th anniversary in the year 2025, along with the anniversary of some of our armed forces services. And I'm confident that it'll be our privilege, hopefully for many years, to continue to serve.
Absolutely. I'll serve as a volunteer and proud supporter of the military services. Chap.
Thank you, my friend. Much appreciated.
Okay, chap. So what's the practice? What are some of the things that chaplains will do for us, and how and why? Well,
we have it narrowed down to 4 key verbs.
Okay.
And I will mention them and then briefly comment on them. Facilitate, provide, care, and advise.
Okay.
And just this once, the language is straightforward. It means what it says what it means, and no abbreviations. Yay. So facilitate. Facilitate means if somebody comes to me and they want something I cannot provide, I have a network by which I'm going to be able to direct that person the right way. So for instance, in the Jewish faith, circumcision is a very important religious ritual that must be done on the 8th day after the birth of a boy. Most folks probably know that you're looking for somebody with a yarmulke. So most of us, this has never happened to me. But if somebody were to come and say, do you know who could circumcise? Well, I'm not going to grab my Swiss Army knife and give it a go. Hold him down. Oh, he's crying. Get him out of here. No,
don't do it.
Well, I'll direct him or her to the nearest rabbi, preferably a military chaplain, just so they understand what we're actually dealing with, and for instance, of deployment matters and whatnot. And just about anything else that comes our way. If we can't provide what the service member is looking for, we facilitate it through teamwork, being able to direct them to the correct resource, not just for spiritual things, but for military, family life counseling, mental health services, and anything else that may be available. So that's facilitate. Provide is the one that's most intrinsic and indigenous to the pastor's faith tradition. Provide simply means we can do that for you. So I happen to be Lutheran, and if somebody wants to baptize a baby with water in the name of the Trinity, somebody wants to confess their sins and hear the word of forgiveness, somebody wants to receive the Lord's Supper, come to a Bible study, pray to the triune God, here I am. And that's really my bailiwick, and I can certainly do that. Not everybody's that specific. Very rarely does somebody say to me, I specifically want the Missouri Synod Lutheran chaplain, 53-year-old white guy.
That's pretty specific there, chap.
Pretty specific. You never know.
You never know. You never know. There will be that one person that'll come in and be like, no, I need this person right here. Oh my God. Woo. So, chap, real quick. So, Lutheran, you were Lutheran. You were a reverend before you came in, right? Or what's the positioning for? Is it a Lutheran priest, or how does that work?
Lutheran ordained minister.
Okay.
And still am. So I'm simply endorsed by my church body, and I keep in touch with our endorsing agency, which is called Ministry to the Armed Forces.
Okay.
So we're constantly, and this is the real administrative challenge, because both of these have paperwork and quarterly reports that we have to do, and yet those two never know each other.
Really?
As an endorsing agent, know my command. It does happen from time to time, but they don't know each other.
Oh,
so
wow.
Reports in. Got to make sure you send the right report to the right person.
Absolutely.
At the time. So every chaplain, at least in the Navy, and I assume for the Army and the Air Force as well, there's going to be some sort of religious ministry professional. I think our largest faith group in the Navy chaplaincy, out of 800 chaplains, it's either Christian Reformed or Southern Baptist.
Okay.
Is the largest faith group. And then the really small ones would be, I think, one Buddhist chaplain, a handful of Islamic chaplains, and for the personnel that they need to serve, we're very short on Roman Catholic chaplains.
Okay.
Yeah, quite a few. There's so many Roman Catholic personnel.
I know, yeah. And it's one of the ones that when we were in Germany, we had a Catholic priest who happened to be in form, and he said we had one on the live before. Yeah, that's right, Steve Cole. We had one of the Muslims. He's the senior. He's a colonel, full-bird colonel, 06.
Okay.
We had him on the show about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was a good show with Chaps. It's so awesome to learn. You know, you're hearing the same thing, and it's just we're here to provide, facilitate, all these different things. I might not be the same belief system. Don't mean that I can't help you out. So, what else were you talking about with those principles?
Okay. So, facilitate, which means I can hand somebody off to the Islamic ministry professional. It's an imam, I believe.
Right.
Okay. And we don't have one at Naval Base San Diego, but we had one when I was up at Camp Pendleton. And again, nobody ever asked me for Islamic services. Now, we do something called, just as an aside on a lighter note, we do something from time to time called an RNA, Religious Needs Assessment, usually within 6 months of deployment. So if you have, say, a dozen Roman Catholics going out on a ship, but your one chaplain happens to be Baptist, you would try to find some Roman Catholic lay leaders who can do whatever their priest will allow them to do when they're on a ship without a priest. So there would be no mass, but I'm not sure what the Roman Catholics do. They might pray the rosary. They might have some sort of a Bible study, read papal pronunciations and encyclicals or something like that. There are things laymen can do even when the priest is not present. Well, those RNAs, the Religious Needs Assessment, there's a very entertaining little line for add your own or other. So it lists about 72 officially recognized religions, and then add your own. It's add your own party.
I can add my own?
You can add your own, and we can't help you with it unless it really exists.
Oh,
but,
wow.
Wiccan, that exists, but we don't have chaplains for Wiccan, so we would just call them and explain, I'm sorry, we don't have Wiccan chaplains. There's Jedi. You will always have a few Jedi.
Chap, I seen that almost. Well, I can't say what I almost did to the soldier because I was on the trail at the time, And
Yeah.
I thought he was messing with me, but it was legit. They were, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, it was one of those ones where they were working on like pushing it through, but there was so many people that was putting it down that, hey, it's recognized.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Now
want
we'll
to see
never.
them use the force.
Yeah. May the force be with you. Or to be honest, when I read those, I'm thinking, may the farce be with you. But that's just me.
Hey.
And my personal favorite, Marty, and check their website. It's a real thing. The Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
I heard that too. The little squiggly thing looked like an octopus. I thought they was messing with me about that too, and I'm like, come on, man, for real. But they really do have that. That's insane, and it's recognized.
No, not at all.
Okay,
so
what is it called again?
The Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Google it. Their website comes up. They have, like, for instance, they have a Pastafarian holiday. And
a Pastafarian holiday.
Pastafarian. It is hilarious. Now, so anytime somebody writes in their own religion, odds are, obviously, if they had to write it in, it's not officially recognized by the DoD. So if somebody goes to their command, and this leads me to the fourth thing that we do, namely advise. If the commanding officer comes to me and says, somebody wants a day off for Pastafarian Day next Wednesday. Thank you.
Of a Pastafarian holiday. Yeah, no.
Exactly. And there's a, for what it's worth, that's one of the few places where the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force actually get together, and a number of chaplains recommend to the higher ups what religions and holidays we're going to recognize.
Okay.
Because for instance, there is a State of Islam group in Michigan that has Ramadan during December. Okay. Standard recognized Islam has Ramadan during the spring. It's my job to know that.
Yeah.
And so when the commanding officer says, hey, I can't send this guy on a patrol through 29 Palms when he can't have a drop of water. So during Ramadan, Islamic personnel, not a drop of water, not a bite of bread, nothing during daylight hours, but they can pig out at night within the restrictions of their cleanliness and their faith tradition and so forth. But you have to know which one is officially recognized. That is entirely on me. The commanding officer comes to the chaplain and says, hey, what's with this Pastafarian holiday? I can say that is not an officially recognized religion. And I cannot tell you, Marty, how many folks have come to me wanting to do what you have done, okay, with your beard.
The new thing, right? Switching
well,
over?
Yeah, claiming to be, get this, Norse pagan.
Oh, I've heard that, but never
What is
brought
that?
it forward.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's really a thing.
So they try to be Thor, basically.
Oh, really?
Thor. Mm-hmm.
Thor. Just like in the movies.
Right.
Gotcha. But apparently Thor has a beard. But now they're going to apply for something called religious accommodation. But for a religious accommodation, I have to tell the commanding officer if this is a legitimate religion and a legitimate practice under the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment. And a Norse pagan just doesn't quite have it. That's the entertaining side of what I do. And even then, I will attempt to lead to the cross of Jesus Christ and the word of forgiveness, because in my faith tradition, all these other ones either offer no forgiveness or imaginary forgiveness.
Yeah. Look, Steve Coe says, I'm not religious at all, but I love hearing the different views and learning about them. He says, during extreme high temps, wartime, religious events become pushed to the side, and pagans have gotten beard exemptions. Really? In the Army side, they got exemptions, Steve Coe? That's interesting. Tell me more. All right, chap. So question. What is the extent of confidential communication to a chaplain?
So when you sit down with a chaplain as an authorized user, and that phrase in our instruction, Secretary of the Navy instruction, simply means you are a service member or you are a dependent of a service member, and that can be any branch of service, period, including reserves, and I believe even retirees. I don't deal a lot with retirees, but think are also eligible. So that's called an authorized user. I say that because inevitably there's a Starbucks and a McDonald's on your base. I work right across from Starbucks. When an employee from Starbucks, if he or she should walk in and it has not happened and wants to talk privately, I would have to explain, you're meeting with me on the civilian side now. And that's certainly okay.
Right.
But the military instructions would not apply. So when that authorized user comes to the chaplain, we close the door, they sit down. Hey, chaps, you got a minute? And I say, yes, absolutely. Whatever is said to the chaplain stays with the chaplain. And what's most unique, no exceptions. Every other community and every other service is going to have exceptions. And it kind of cracks me up because if you ask your military family life counselor, what's the extent of communication? And they say it's fully confidential, except, I don't like the phraseology, is you should say except it's not fully confidential.
Right.
They should say mostly confidential. And the exceptions inevitably across the board are threat, imminent threat or harm to that person or to somebody else.
Right.
They're mandatory reporters. Only the chaplain is mandatory non-reporter. What's said to the chaplain stays with the chaplain. Not that we would try to cover a crime, and the folks who are out there committing crimes, they don't want to speak to the chaplain anyway. But the idea is you give people a safe place that they can go where anything they say, well, it's not going to come back to reflect negatively on them, their career, or their family. 100% confidentiality.
Yeah, that's good, Chad. I'm glad. I like how you broke that down. Steve Cole broke down his question. He said, so my question was, say, during an event like World War III or even recently the Middle East, are religious personnel during something like Ramadan still required to go out and do patrols?
I'd say that's at the discretion of the commanding officer. Yes, because the commanding officer, that is a lawful order to say, enjoy your Ramadan, you're going on patrol. What we really want, though, is before you know Ramadan is coming, right, you know the exercise is coming, is just make that communication very clear. Bring your chaplain with you. Hey, chaps, you got a minute? Let's talk to the commanding officer. And then we try to find kind of the path of least resistance. All you have to do is don't put Islamic personnel out in the field in 113-degree weather, right, for that particular exercise. Because as you know, watches and patrols and so forth, they go around the clock.
That's right.
Just put them on that night patrol.
Exactly. Yeah. And you hit that, obviously you hit it on the head. You're the subject matter expert. But from the leadership standpoint, that's exactly what we did. And that's basically what the chaplain was talking about, the Muslim chaplain who on last 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's exactly what he was saying. He would go out and was still doing stuff, but he just made sure that he was did it intelligently. Yeah. If I'm gonna be out here, I'm gonna do these things, I'm gonna train, I gotta make sure I'm taking care of my body. I gotta make sure, that I'm letting my leaders, not all leaders are aware of these specific things, right? And so if you don't know, leaders, if you don't know that your soldiers have specific religious things that they have going on, what is it? This is my squad, know your people, then you could be failing them for not paying attention, They may keep pushing forward just because they don't want to be, well, if that's the leader of that squad leader, right? And they don't want to send their people out. They're gonna, no, don't push me to another one. I'll go with my guys. But it's 100+ degrees outside and you're going on patrol. No. We got to work something else out. I'll send your squad, on the night or on the later shift when it's not so hot. Just so that they don't, some people just, especially talking about your soldiers and your Marines that are out there doing their beating feet, they don't want to look weak. And you don't want to put them in a situation where you compromising or you taking that away from them. So I think it's important to get with your chaplain and get with your, your leadership, and they work out a plan ahead of time. It don't sneak up on us. Right, Chap?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, these things are coming, and there's always a way to deal with it.
Always a way, especially when you got people that care in position, and most of your chaplains care. So that's a good question, Steve Cole. Ozzy. All right, so touch point, chap.
Yeah.
According to the Great Wheel of Fortune, what are some challenges facing military chaplains today?
Yeah. Well, allow me to mention two, if I may.
Yeah.
One is simply a manpower. So our goal is that when a ship, and again, I'm speaking Navy here, I'm sure it was a similar story for Army and the Air Force. Our goal is that when a ship deploys, it has a chaplain. At this point, we do not have enough chaplains to make that happen without borrowing a chaplain from somewhere. So SurfPack, and I don't envy this job, the 06 chaplain for Naval Forces Pacific has that huge chessboard of sorts in his office. And he's got to figure out this ship is going to deploy, but then we have to borrow him, but then so-and-so has to cover. And again, you're playing that ship. Wow. We simply need more chaplains, but not for the sake of bodies. We need actual qualified patriots who love both of these. You love and you are endorsed by your faith tradition. You've been to college and seminary and you have parish experience. That means you're no longer 18. Guys get married, they have kids, they settle in. They don't want to, okay, honey, we're going to go live 30 to 36 months in a different place each time. Yeah. And it might be overseas. And then there's this big D called deployment. So we need more chaplains. But again, that's of no value unless they're actually good chaplains. Now, the second challenge I would mention is just defining what is a faith tradition. As we all know, we live in an age where people don't really think through their faith tradition.
Right.
They think I love this one. I'm spiritual but not religious. People think that Christians, Islamic personnel, and Jewish personnel are all worshiping the same God, even though they're in 3 different places on 3 different days of the week, obviously worshiping 3 different gods on each of those days. It's just kind of bizarre. Now, where that hits the chaplain corps, because we can still facilitate and we can still care. I don't think I got to that one, by the way. Facilitate, provide. Care simply means when somebody says, hey, chaps, you got a minute? I want to talk about something. The answer is yes, of course. Yeah. I have a minute. I have, which means I have an hour. Okay. You got a minute? Yes, I have an hour. That's how we do that, right?
Yeah.
And then to advise the command on these sorts of matters. Well, what is a Jedi chaplain or a Wiccan chaplain? That has not happened, but we did have somebody apply to all 3 armed forces chaplain boards, Army, Air Force, and Navy, to be a secular humanist chaplain.
A secular humanist chaplain.
Yes. Again, as far as we're concerned, in the chaplain corps, there's no such thing. If you do not have a God, you do not have some sort of spirituality, the one thing you should not be is a chaplain.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the Trojan horse. Recall in the days of Odysseus, and you leave the Trojan horse outside the city of Troy as if it's a peace offering. They bring it in, and then this little band of soldiers, and the city is going down. That's all it is. It's a Trojan horse. But get this, Harvard University has several chaplains. Their lead chaplain, he's been there for several years. He just became lead chaplain, I believe, last year. He is a humanist. He does not have any faith tradition, and he wrote a book. And the book is called Good Without God. You might as well have pacifists in your squadron when you're going into that.
It's crazy, but it's unfortunately, it's not a surprise. I've been reading a lot of apologetics and, just I've been going back through C.S. Lewis stuff, Mere Christianity, and a lot of stuff, and they've been talking about this for a long time, just people, it's another whole conversation. But yeah, I'm not surprised. It's unfortunate, but it's not surprising. So Steve-O said, have you dealt with people who are faking it? And if so, how did you deal with it? Faking what, Steve-O? Oh, faking their religious organizations, or faking that they're chaplains? Let's see.
He might mean faking religious accommodations, like I need to grow a beard because I'm Norse pagan.
Yeah. So what have you had that situation? Oh, you did have the situation. What did you guys do?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
there's always this is easy, and I'm not proud of this. It can also be fun. Okay, so if somebody comes to me and says, I need a religious accommodation, let me briefly say religious accommodation is basically an exception to policy based on religious need.
Mm-hmm.
So Norse pagans, it's really important to their faith tradition to grow a beard. You need what we call, by the way, mustaches are okay in the Navy. You can grow a mustache. Okay. But if you show up fuzzy, they may ask you, and I just saw this 2 weeks ago, somebody may look at you and say, are you growing a mustache? And you say, yes. But like dietary accommodations, Buddhists, I think, tend to eat all vegetables. And then that's the whole process that goes through the chaplain. So when somebody says they claim to be whatever, let's say it's Jewish, simple question. Okay. So what synagogue do you go to? What's the name of your rabbi? Refresh my memory. What are the first 5 books of the Old Testament? So these are short. It can be very, very short conversations.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know the name of your rabbi, and then I don't even have to tell them, I'm sorry, I don't believe you. If you do get a faith tradition, I still want to help you find your faith tradition. I really do. But obviously, Jewish is not it.
Yeah.
Or if you're a Buddhist, tell me about that 14 circle thing, or just show them the Buddhist symbol and ask them to explain. Looks like a tire with bolts in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ask them to explain that. And then what's the other one? Okay, the other thing I can do is this. If somebody wants a religious accommodation, one of the things they are encouraged to bring is some sort of a letter from their home church or faith group on official stationery signed by a religious leader explaining that this person really is, say, Wiccan. And I say, yes, no. And I just always put that back in their court. That, okay, I'm happy to help you, but you need to bring me, okay, and make very clear, that's the next step. I don't call you actually bring me this document. And here I am, I'm still waiting for some of them to show up with their documents.
Look, Steve said, is there any type of punishment if you catch them faking it or just for wasting your time?
I'm sorry to say no, but the chaplain's role is to make sure the commanding officer does not waste his time. Yeah. The commanding officer can focus on actual warfare readiness. So we have SWOs, like I'm with surface warfare right now, right? A SWO, surface warfare officer, understands one thing: combat readiness. Yeah. That's it. Now this ties in because you can't have somebody deploy if you can't meet their dietary needs or right. whatnot. If they waste my time, there is no retribution whatsoever. What I don't want to happen is the commanding officer to call me in and say, chaps, you got to be more, you need to be more discerning about these. Yeah. It has not been yet, but we'll see. But no punishment.
That's good. So then in the end, you're giving the counsel to the commanding officer on what decision they make, but they end up making that decision on whether or not to give that accommodation?
Absolutely. It can actually go much higher, but it would go at least to the commanding officer. But some of them, and there's actually a chart in the instruction that explains what it is and how high it needs to go. Okay. So about 2 years ago, obviously a lot of folks didn't want to take the COVID vaccine, or maybe it was about a year ago, last fall.
Yeah, hit it, Chad.
I mean, a lot of folks. Yeah. We had to process a religious accommodation and all the paperwork it entails for everybody who, after that first meeting, we explained the process. The next step is you need to go draft a memo. We give them a sample memo. You go draft your sample memo and you bring it back. Okay. And those who brought it back, we went forward. Every one of them was denied. Mm-hmm. But those went all the way up to the chief of naval operations.
Wow.
Yeah. So my Commodore, my boss, wrote a letter, somewhat form letter. I'm sure he read all of them. We only had a dozen who actually showed up and processed it. But those all went to the chief of naval operations, and they all had to come back, to the point that we had a 2 or 3 star in Millington at our administrative offices who, get this, he took every one of those so seriously that on his way home from work last fall, every night, he would grab a stack of 20 religious accommodations. 20 every night. Take them home and read every word because he cares that much about our sailors and their religious accommodations. Yep.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
it's good to hear that side of it, because I had a soldier who was like scratching and clawing at whatever he could get. And so I told him, I say, look, man, you know what do we got to do? And he said, I'm gonna use my religious accommodation. I said, what's your religion? Christianity. I'm like, that's not in there. It's not in there.
Yeah.
It's not there. And he was like, well, I'm gonna talk to somebody who's gonna get it for me. And I said, well, who do you want me to call? You know,
Yeah.
who do we call? Because I don't want to force you to do. At that time, we were still voluntary, but we knew it was coming. That it was gonna be mandatory for us, right? It was highly suggested. And so it was a chaplain that we both served with. Chaplain, you walk away. Shout out to Chaplain, you walk away. He was the Catholic priest, the actual priest from the Vatican. And so I called him up. I said, hey, Chap, how you doing? He said, First Sergeant. I said, hey, Chap, I got a question for you. And he had, I said, we got one of our old soldiers. He want to talk to you about the vaccine. He said, get it.
Get it.
He said, get it. The soldier turns and looks at me. He said, he's not my favorite chaplain anymore. I said, dude, you can't go and try to find people that's going to say what you want them to say. You can't do it. So that was just funny. And hearing it, this side of it from you, that's awesome that, that person at that level took it that serious to take that amount of stuff home with him to be reading it. Hey, what's going on, QD boss? What you doing up this late? Huh? All right, chap. Another case story. Study. Case study.
No problem. One of my favorite ones is in World War II. After we essentially won World War II, we engaged in international war tribunals in Nuremberg to try the Nazi war criminals. And would you believe that we actually had a Lutheran chaplain assigned to the prison in Nuremberg during those international war trials? And then the Nazi criminals grew to love him so much, they actually wrote a letter to his wife, who was living, I believe, just outside St. Louis. They wrote a letter in broken English saying, we're sorry you haven't seen your husband in 2 years, but he's very important to us right now while we're still awaiting either acquittal or conviction, as the case may be, though I think we all knew it would be, and of course was, conviction, and asking that she would be patient and allow him to stay.
Wow.
How important was Chaplain Garricky, was his name? How important was he working with these Nazi war criminals? That poor Mrs. Garricky, picture her, okay, with a pot of tea on the stove, going to the mailbox in an unassuming cul-de-sac that says, hi, picture it. And then here is, remember the old airmail used to have the red, white, and blue around the edge?
Yeah.
And opening that up, and then her daughter saying, so what's in the mail today? Oh, just a letter from Nazi war criminals, one of your dad.
Yeah. I don't know how you explain that. That's almost as bad as, look, I'm going to tell you real quick, chat. So I was doing retention NCO duty. I was the career counselor for my battalion. And not thinking about it, I would walk around with the bag and I would have my flag as I'm walking through the area to the location for the thing. And sometimes, your people will see the flag while you're walking in, and they'll just start big eyes, and then they're looking and they're like, because when they're walking over the flag, they start thinking, something bad has happened. And so a senior member said, hey, Big Sarge, won't you put that inside of the bag? Take it out when you get to the spot. And then he explained to me, I was like, oh shoot, I've been giving people heart attacks this whole time because they see me walking up there with the flag folded up, ready to present it, and I'm just trying to hurry up and get to the location for it. So it's a fun fact.
And if I had been with you, you got a chaplain officer, somebody dressed up with a flag folded in a triangle, that means one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the what do we call those guys? I had to take that class. That's the
Casualty Assistant
Yeah,
Officer.
Casualty Assistance Officer and the NCO. Woo.
Yep.
That's rough.
Absolutely.
That is. Oh my God. All right. Do you have another case study for us?
Okay. Yeah. Can I just mention one actually from today? Yeah. So today I was visiting one of my ships in San Diego, and at the adjacent pier, we saw red, white, and blue streamers, sailors in dress whites, and then standing on the pier next to them, a bunch of civilians. And I think I actually saw the little tent from Chick-fil-A. Well, that means one thing. That means homecoming. Now, it was not one of my ships, so I was not expected to be there. But it's told goodbye. And I know homecomings are the things that you put on Facebook. We need to put more of "I'm leaving for deployment" on Facebook to back that out, the tears of sorrow and the tears of joy. But this particular ship coming home left San Diego July 2nd, 2021.
They were gone that long?
Yes.
Wow. They're usually only out, 6 months max?
Yeah, well, typically you hear 7 months. Extensions might get you up to 9 months. And again, it's not my ship, so I was not tracking this. July 2nd of last year. So everybody has missed anniversary, birthday, Christmas. You have missed the entire round of holidays.
Yeah.
And the way we release sailors when we come back is that those who had children born while they were on deployment get off first. Okay. So of course I had to go and watch the whole thing, even though I don't know these people.
Yeah.
And to see you're meeting your child who could be less than a year old, could be 11 months old, could be do the math. I mean, because we've got 9 months for the pregnancy cycle and so forth. But you're meeting children, or meeting mommy and daddy for the first time as these sailors are getting off. Now think of the bond that they have when you've been. And by the way, guess where they were? The South China Sea.
Oh wow!
That's why it took so long, because this is what's happening in the South China Sea,
right.
And there has to be some type of a record for a destroyer to deploy. So that's 300 people living inside the skin of that ship, for that long, and yet they looked remarkably healthy when they deboarded. There. Now, so my point is, somewhere in the midst of that is a chaplain, right? And I don't know. Again, it's not my ship, so I don't know exactly who deployed with them, and the bond that you have made over that period of time with just one chaplain on destroyers. You got one. The folks who didn't even know how to spell chaplain 12 months ago, that they're going to have them over to the house for dinner. But I think of Isaiah 43, and this is what I love to use: the first night at sea, and then whether the last night is a week later, or in this case, 12 months later. From Isaiah chapter 43, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. Thus, our prayer in the Chaplain Corps for our sailors, Marines, soldiers, and Coast Guard.
Okay. That's good. I like that, chap. It was Isaiah 43, and what was the verse?
2 and 3.
2 and 3. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I had to say that one. I like that. All right, chap. Anything that we missed you want to hit on?
Okay. That's it. I think that Isaiah 43 from the Navy perspective, and then the second half works on the Army perspective. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. And what a pleasure for us as a Chaplain Corps to be the ones to bring that message to you, the service members.
Absolutely. Well, Steve said Isaiah is amazing. Yes, it is, Steve. I'm glad that you hung out with us, and everybody else that's out there. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Chap, it's so awesome to have you back. We got to keep going at it. We gotta find some more stuff to excuses to bring you back, man.
I can see story my way through a long time, my friend. No
Okay.
problem. Thanks for the invitation.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I appreciate you so much. Huh?
I said say hello to the family.
Jewel Junkie says, say hello to the family. I keep calling her Jewel Junkie. My wife says, say hello to the family.
Likewise, if you're in Oceanside, we are getting together. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, all right, sir. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a great weekend. Tell everybody we says hi. And love you guys. God bless you.
All right. Love you too. God bless. Bye-bye.
Turn that.